Why aren't all these guys coming up to us? Even if we're not into them, why don't they just come up? Just to like make us feel good about ourselves.
See, guys aren't approaching women like that anymore, and this woman just found out why. But the question is she willing to switch up her game so she can get the kind of man she wants? Well, you'll have to tune into the rest of the video to find out. But while I have your attention, hit that like and subscribe button because it really works YouTube magic for the channel. And honestly, I wouldn't be able to do this without you. Anyway, with my begging out of the way, we can get into the mess.
I think dating is too casual these days. Everybody cancels last minute and it's starting to really wear on me. Like, I was supposed to have coffee with somebody this morning and they messaged me an hour before we were supposed to get together and said that they slept poorly and weren't feeling well and could we reschedule for later in the day. I'm busy later. I have plans. I am a schedule-oriented person. So no, we can cancel. And unfortunately, because that was your first impression now with me, we're not ever going to meet up again. So I don't, like, tell me if I'm inflexible or if I'm the crazy one here, but if you agree to do something with somebody, you do it. And I'm not a monster. I understand. Sometimes you don't feel well. But there have been plenty of times I have set up a date with somebody and I'm excited that day. And then the day of the date rolls around and I'm like, man, I really do not feel like going. Like, I am not in the right headspace. I don't want to do this. You go anyway because you made a commitment. You don't have to stay long. You can tell that person, you can communicate, look, I'm not at my best today. But sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do because you made plans. And I feel like that concept is lost on a lot of people these days. Am I wrong? Let me know if I'm crazy.
She's right. We are living in the era of flakiness, and nobody wants to commit to anything. And this is especially true when you're meeting people online. With the abundance of options that some people have on dating apps, they feel no way about canceling a date if a better option comes along. I'm not saying that this is what happened in this case, but it's possible. For me, when people cancel a date at the last possible minute, that's a sign of low interest, unless you have a valid excuse, of course. The guy that this woman was meant to go on a date with claims that he didn't sleep well, but if he knew he had plans with someone in the morning, he could have made the effort to go to bed early. Unless, of course, he just didn't care all that much. I will say though, at least he offered to schedule things for later in the day, so he didn't completely kill the idea or postpone it to an unspecified time, which is a good thing in my book. In any case, it's up to the person on the other end if they want to still go ahead with things. And the woman in this video wasn't about that life, so she called it quits on the whole thing. What would you guys have done if you were in this situation?
So I was seeing this guy for about a year and he never asked me to be his girlfriend. So at the end of it, I was like, hey, do you want to be my boyfriend? And he goes, nope. And I was like, do you not like me enough? And he goes, no, I actually love you. Right. No, yeah, makes sense. Okay, so I was like, do you not want to commit? And he was like, no, I want to commit so badly. I just can't. Right, okay, so that makes even more sense. That checks out. He has a girlfriend now, so...
Within the first few seconds of this clip, I knew that this woman had been doomed to the situationship zone. When the guy said he couldn't commit, despite claiming that he loved her, should have told her everything she needed to know about whatever future she thought they had. I don't know why women subject themselves to these year-long situationships when they're looking for something more. It's such a waste of time they'll never get back. If a guy's been seeing a girl for a few months and hasn't shown any signs of actually making things official, women should cut it off rather than sink more time into something that's never gonna amount to anything. This guy was ready to settle down with someone, which is proven by the fact that the next girl he started hooking up with became his actual girlfriend. As smart as some women are, they can be beyond clueless when it comes to dating men, especially men who know what they're doing in the dating game.
I know the internet is gonna hate me for this one, but hear me out. If it is illegal to get an abortion, shouldn't it be illegal for a father to not be involved? Like, if I can't choose whether or not to have the baby and care and provide, why do you get the choice of not having a baby and supporting and providing? Right? Right.
This is kinda nonsense to me, because before the whole abortion becoming a legal thing in the US, women had nothing to say when it came to a man not having a real say as to whether a woman has a baby or not. By this logic, if a man can't choose whether or not she can have the baby, why does she have the power to put him on child support for a baby he never wanted? There was always an imbalance when it comes to abortion, but it seems like women never cared about it until it started to negatively impact them. Isn't that funny?
You cannot tell me that we don't live in a man's world. I just discovered the concept of sexual plasticity. That is, that men have biologically evolved to care more about how women look externally because that is indicative of fertility, and to care less about how they act. Whereas for women, it's the other way around. Like, any man is fertile, whether he's skinny, tall, short, ugly. But women have evolved to be more tolerant to men being ugly, basically, and to care more about them being like nice and funny.
Personally, I don't think we live in a man's or woman's world, because regardless of your gender, you're gonna experience both the pros and cons. That said, if you are a successful or powerful man, life can be pretty blissful, but that's not the case for most of us. What she's talking about in this video is the simple fact that men have evolved to correlate beauty with fertility, like she mentioned. But for women, they're more interested in a man's ability to survive and provide for her and any kids they might have. And even though she specified the qualities of being nice and funny regarding what women want in a man, I have to say, those things aren't a priority. There are more than enough sweet and funny guys in the friend zone, and the reason they're stuck there is because they're lacking something that women value. Throughout the history of mankind, only about 40% of men compared to 80% of women have been able to reproduce. So being a successful man in the dating world isn't as easy as people like to make it seem. And this whole thing makes sense when you think about how few men are actually able to enjoy a woman's company in a romantic sense these days. Another fun fact is that apparently, 8,000 years ago, the ratio of reproducing women to men was as high as 17-1, which is wild. And if you want to know why that is, check this out. A biological anthropologist hypothesizes that somehow only a few men accumulated lots of wealth and power, leaving nothing for others. These men could then pass their wealth onto their sons, perpetuating this pattern of elitist reproductive success. Then, as thousands of years passed, the numbers of men reproducing compared to women rose again. Maybe more and more people started being successful, Wilson Sayers says. In more recent history, as a global average, about 4 or 5 women reproduced for every 1 man. I'll leave a full link to this article in the comments so you can check it out. And if there's anything that screams out hypergamy to you today, that'll be it. But before I get too off track, let's get back to the video.
And I'm just like, what in the cop-out? It is so much harder to be hot than to be funny. Like, being hot is mostly genetics. You can't just like learn how to have a better hip to waist ratio. You can learn to be kind. Like, a man can literally wake up and choose to be nice, and biologically, like, women will be more attracted to him.
Maybe guys do have more control over the ability to become more appealing to women. But as you can see from the study I referenced earlier, it's not that easy in practice. I don't know why she keeps talking about being nice and funny, because any man who's good with women could tell you that those weren't the most important things. If being nice and funny was all it took to attract a woman, the ratio of reproducing women to men wouldn't be what it is. So clearly, there are other qualities that women are looking for in men. Qualities such as a man's confidence, his status, and his overall ability to provide for his family. This whole thing about a guy just being nice, and that'll be what helps him attract women, is setting him up for failure. Kindness is something that women only value when it comes from the type of men they want. So don't get to thinking that solely being nice will help you be successful in the dating game, because it won't. Also, she makes it seem like there's nothing a woman can do to increase her attractiveness, but that's just not the case. Women can enhance what they have by going to the gym and watching their diet.
And I'm just like, that's cursed. That's actually cursed. Like, is this why, respectfully, the Ariana Grandes of the world are dating munchkins? I was canoodling with a man recently, and he looked at me and he was like, I must be really funny. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, because I'm not that good looking. And I looked at him and I was like, just objectively like clocked him for a second. And I was like, yeah, you're kind of not that good looking. But my body didn't care. Like, my body just like tells me when I'm attracted to someone, and it's not this like objective thing, it's subjective. Like, I'll look at a man and they can low-key be ugly, and for whatever reason I'm attracted to them, and like maybe it was because he was funny, maybe it's because he was smart, I don't fucking know. But I'm just kind of like, in that moment it hit me. I was like, this man is not attracted to me because I'm funny or because I'm smart. Like, this man is attracted to me because of a hip to waist ratio. Like, what the actual is even that?
When she's talking about the guys she was attracted to, it's most likely because they had the qualities that most women are looking for in a guy. If a guy's not hot, but can make a woman feel something and make her excited, he'll be well on his way to a good time. It was funny at the end when she seemed upset about a man being attracted to her physical traits, because that's exactly what men think and feel whenever women only want to be around them because of the size of their bank account or social status. Men and women aren't these divine beings who were put on the earth to find love. We are animals, and our main priority is to pass on our genes to the next generation. While society has done a good job of dressing things up and making things seem magical, Disney-fying it if you will, at the end of the day, when you strip everything back, we're all here to have orgasms and babies.
Guys do not approach you at the bar not because you're not pretty, but it's because of this. I've been going to the bars every weekend with my friends, maybe for the past couple months, and I love it. I love socializing, and I'm single. And my friend and I were talking at the bar the other weekend, and we were talking about how we've never been approached by a single guy before. Like, maybe ever. Which is just insane to think about. Like, I can name a couple occurrences where they have, but it was like people from Europe, and they're like a different breed of people, okay? So I feel like the culture in America is way different. Guys do not want to approach you, not because of how pretty you are or how you look, but it's really because they're scared of you.
It's amazing that women are shocked by the fact that a lot of men have stopped approaching women these days. But if you spend any amount of time on social media or watching mainstream TV, you'd hear it over and over again about how men should leave women alone because they don't want to be spoken to. Not everyone is a smooth talker when it comes to starting up a conversation with a random woman. So guys who are a little more shy or nervous are turned off by the whole thing because they don't want to come across as being creepy or intrusive. While there's been a cultural shift in Europe, I don't think it's anywhere as radical as it's been in the US. So maybe guys feel more confident and comfortable when it comes to talking to women they don't know. Even before all this, most guys would be hesitant about approaching an attractive woman because they don't want to be rejected. And even worse than that, embarrassed, which some girls have a habit of doing. If women like this want guys to make the first move, they need to send men clearer signals, letting them know that they're interested in starting something up.
And then us women over here who are single are thinking like, we look amazing, we did our makeup, we chose the perfect outfit.
After listening to her say that, I couldn't help but think about all the women that come onto these podcasts and talk about how they only get dressed up for themselves when they're going out, because that's obviously not the case.
Why aren't all these guys coming up to us? Even if we're not into them, why don't they just come up just to like make us feel good about ourselves?
That's wild. She wants guys to come up to her and her friends so they can make them feel good, only to reject them as soon as they got the validation they wanted. This right here shows that she doesn't give a damn about making a connection with someone. She just wants guys to boost her ego. After listening to this, I'd wager that a lot of guys would feel even less inclined to talk to her and shoot their shot. Approaching a woman isn't an easy thing to do for most guys, so the last thing they want to know is that the woman they're interested in is only using them until something better comes along. And until then, they're ready and willing to soak up all the attention a guy may be giving them.
Okay, now I want you to think of the perspective of a guy. I'll never know what's in a man's head, but I have a pretty good idea from like my guy friends and going out a lot. Guys are intimidated by you, okay? They don't all have that courage or charisma or just bravery to go up to you like you have to somebody else. And on top of just being intimidated by going up to a stranger in general, you're probably surrounded by a big group of friends. And even worse if you're surrounded by your guy friends, because they're gonna assume that you're dating one of them, and no one wants to go up to a girl who's surrounded by a bunch of guys, okay? It's just a cock block.
At least she's starting to get it now, but for the most part, women will never really know what it's like to go up to a complete stranger with the hope of creating chemistry. More often than not, guys strike out when they make the first move. And this is true for guys who suck with women and guys who are very good with women, which is why it's often referred to as a numbers game. The more women a man talks to on a night out, the higher the chance will be that he finds some sort of success. Whenever I see a group of friends that's a mixture of both men and women, I always assume that there are people in that group who are clapping cheeks, even if nobody else knows about it. This has been the case for every single friendship group I've been a part of, and I'm sure that you guys have had a similar experience. So yeah, she's right. Being out with a bunch of dudes is going to lessen the probability of a guy making a move because he is going to assume that one or more of those guys she's hanging out with are giving her the Bane backbreaking treatment.
So now you're probably thinking, okay, we have this information, but what do we do with it? First off, I don't really think bars are the best place to really find a relationship. It's great to meet people, have fun, really get to know other people. But if you're putting all your eggs in one basket and really putting so much pressure on finding a guy that will take you seriously, it's going to be very hard. The other thing is that we always make fun of dating apps a lot, but I think the percentage is something like 60% of people now meet their significant other on the internet.
Bars are kind of like dating apps in that all they're good for is finding a quick hookup or a situationship. But even then, not many guys are able to take a woman home on the same night. If people are looking for something serious, they need to be ready at all times, because you just never know when or where you're going to meet someone who interests you.
Because people don't go up to other people anymore because they know they can meet you on a dating app. It's so much easier. This past Saturday, I literally went up to a group of guys and was like, do you want to play cards? I wasn't attracted to any of them, but I'm so happy I did it because I made a new group of friends and it was so much fun. And initially I thought that they weren't that fun. Like they just seemed like they were like moping around. They all had RBFs, like whatever. And I went up to them and they ended up being the funniest group of guys ever.
I will give this woman credit for making the first move, because that's not something most women are ready to do. And honestly, the way things are going in the dating game, this will have to be something that women have to start doing if they want to meet someone. Times are changing, man, so you have to change with them if you don't want to get left behind.
And I'm sure a lot of guys think of you that way too. You might have like an RBF or just you don't seem approachable, but little do they know how you really are. So the takeaway from this video is that guys not coming up to you out in public says nothing about you. You can literally be like Gigi Hadid and a guy's still not going to come up to you. Guys are intimidated and it takes so much courage to go up to a girl. And a lot of guys are cheap and just don't want to buy you a drink and they're scared of getting used for a drink, which kind of sucks, but I understand.
I have to disagree with the whole thing about guys not approaching women having nothing to do with them, because a lot of the time, it does. If women don't make men feel like it's safe to randomly start talking to them, guys aren't going to make the approach, so having a resting bitch face isn't going to do you any favors. It doesn't really matter if a woman's an amazing person and wants a guy to shoot his shot. If he never gets to engage with her, he'll never get to know that. I will say though, buying women drinks in a club is a massive waste of time, and that's something I learned very early on. I can't tell you how many times I've seen men spend big money on a woman in a club, only to see her go home with a dude who didn't spend a penny. I mean, earlier in the video, she talked about how she wanted guys to approach her just so she can get validation. And the same way she'd happily use men for that, a woman will happily use a guy for drinks, knowing full well that she has zero interest in him. Anyway guys, what do you think about today's clips? Let me know your thoughts in the comments so we can chop it up.